you've been able to apparently communicate with Christ.
Yes.
How does that work? What kind of communication is that?
It's probably the biggest surprise of my life. I mean, how do you explain that even to yourself? I saw him, and when I was in a restaurant, thank God, and I was with somebody. Because if it happened when I was alone, I don't know if I would have shared that or believed it enough to share it. But I did see him. I knew all my life that when I was 40, my life was going to change. I had no idea that that's what it was. And I remember throughout my life when I would do something that I thought was big, whatever it was, I'd say, oh, maybe this is it. Oh, maybe that's it. And then I'd say, oh, but I'm not 40 yet. So it couldn't be that. And then I found myself at 40 feeling like things were accelerating in my life. They were happening quicker. I was putting things together faster. I was not willing to take no for an answer. I was feeling a lot of energy to feel like I was starting my life rather than, oh, I hit 40 and I'm going to slow down and my kids are older and whatever that meant. And sure enough, less than a month after, one of my clients said to me, hey, I want to take you out for your birthday. And April 11th, 2002, I went out on my birthday. And I was sitting in a restaurant, and we were talking. And we had eaten and paid our bill. And I was ready to go, and I couldn't miss it, obviously. I'm still talking about it. It happens to me a lot. I hear it a lot. It made me not religious, per se, because I'm Muslim. At first I was like, well, you came to the wrong person because I'm Muslim. And just stayed there staring at me, like, wait until you catch up and then I'll be here. And it was probably the most absolute I ever felt on earth. I think in that moment, I knew. I didn't know the answer to everything, but I knew that there was an answer to everything, and how little the answer actually mattered. The answer was just something for us to shoot for. We came here to grow our souls, and I accepted my soul that night as a growing soul, not as a knowing soul. And there's a big difference, because when you think you know something, that's all you know. You're done with it, you go on. But if you're growing, you realize that everything has depth. There's always more love that you can feel and know. The more you know, the more you will learn. And that every change is a million baby steps, and to trust in the process of life. Nobody came here to be forever. We came here to do some work on our souls. Work to grow our souls and go back. Nobody here is 500 years old. We're trying to push the 100 limit. Maybe 120 now, I don't know. But at the end of the day, we go back home. And we come here to grow. And if we look at our life as the challenges we chose to take on and grow through, the word problem has no room anymore. Problem, just saying that word is a dead end. Because a problem says, you can't fix me. A challenge says, how will you fix me? And then you have to say, well, let me see. Do I do it this way or that way? Should I try this? Oh, I really wanted this. Turned out that wasn't right for me. So that means I got to try this. Oh, now I know why that didn't work out. But to be able to do this with yourself, to be able to trust enough that you have a chance to solve and you have a chance to grow, takes away the worry of not being able to do it to how you will be able to do it. It just transitions your mind to a level that doesn't take away from you and beat you up and set yourself up to fail and then call yourself names in your own head why you couldn't do this and why you didn't do that and it was never meant for you and everybody else. And I'm thinking, who is everybody else? We're all a bunch of each other. Seeing Christ didn't make me more special. And I always want to say that because before I saw him, I literally did not feel as good as others. And that day started me feeling like everybody else. There can't be a better than anybody because we all came here with a purpose. No one came here without one, otherwise you would not have been here. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what you're doing. You have a purpose. And when we ignore our talent, and we ignore our purpose, and we feel far away, that's depression, because we are depressing our talent. And when we follow what we feel, and we follow what we do, and we treasure the gifts we have, all of a sudden you look out your door and life feels that way too. And yes, I have my moments, we all have our moments, but they don't fall as far. I know that I'm going to get up. I know that, wow, I feel this way today, let me pull back.
Mm-hmm.
Let me keep my sweats on, go shopping invisibly, I'm fine. Let me cook, let me just sit with my kids. Now I just know. I know enough not to push it and then force something else to happen because already I'm not present. And that's just trusting that life will not let me down. It's not here to let us down. It's here to push and pull us. It's here to challenge us, and it's here to grow us. And every time we grow, we never stop. It's not like you're going to learn everything, and then you'll know everything, and then you can live. It's not separate, and we separate it. It's living every day and letting yourself grow and finding out, now I want to do this, and now I want to do that. And then letting yourself start by doing it. And a lot of times we wait until whatever it is we're going to do is done. We just want to finish it. And then we stand there trying to replace it with something else to do. But really live in the process, because that process is your teacher. That's why you're doing it.
So going back to those conversations with Christ, is that actually conversations, or is that questions, or is that just a knowing? How does this actually work?
It works.
And can we all do that?
It's incredible. I know that there's people who are close to me that I wanted to see if they could. I didn't know. And they also are able to write through the way it happened to me. And I'm just recently finding this out because I knew he's not just for me. Yes, he came through me and I'm talking about it, but I'm talking about it because it's all of ours, not because it's mine. And the way it was I was in a hard spot in my life, and I used to wake up and write to God because I had nobody to talk to. And I knew with God, I figured he saw everything. So I can pick up where I left off. I didn't have to explain.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed to be able to sleep at night and just take it out of me, whatever I was thinking, and put the worst of it down so that it was at least out of me. And I felt safe there. And I just did that every night, never believing, ever, that I would get an answer. I was really looking for relief for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I was in an arranged marriage. I was very sad. I was dying. And I had nothing bad to say about anybody. I just was dying. I stopped eating very much. I stopped wanting to talk. I just needed an outlet, and I didn't know where to find it, and that's where I found it. And over time, I started writing things quicker than I could think them.
Mm-hmm.
And that writing was teaching me. And then I realized in that I wasn't alone. And then when I would be alone, I'd say, whatever it is around me, don't come out, because I'll have a heart attack and die. I can't, but I felt something. And I realized that we're here with free will. And only because of free will and allowing these things to be present around you can they be. Because free will is respected so much that if you say, I don't believe this, you will not believe it. And if you say, I believe this, you will. It really is that simple, and neither is right or wrong. It just makes a difference in how you will live your life. It's really all it will do. And over time, that feeling started accelerating where I felt around me. Granted, I was very surprised, Christ. Very surprised. I couldn't even now I think of it because I had no concept of Christ at the time. Being Muslim, he wasn't our topic of conversation. And even when he said Christ, if he said Jesus, I would have said, yeah, I get it. I know who you are. But Christ, it took me a minute because that wasn't how I even identified him. But I also realized that being religious or not didn't matter to him to me because I wasn't. But it sure made me realize that there is a higher being. There is God. There is bigger than us. And knowing that really put life into perspective because I felt a part of life instead of my life, my day, my things, whatever mine meant. That vanished. What I wanted for me, I wanted for everybody. The love I felt, I thought everyone needs to feel this. Because without it, we don't feel. No matter what we try, we don't feel. And I run into a lot of not feeling people. I was one of them at some points in my life, where you're just on pause. Sometimes pause and mute. And all of a sudden nothing can fulfill that emptiness until you face it because it's calling to you. It's saying, hey, you know what? I'm in your body and no one's paying attention to me and you're running around doing all these things, but pay attention to me. And when I saw him look at me, I felt paid attention too. And I respected that I can also do that to myself, and he just reminded me of it. And I knew that whatever it is I'm telling anybody, I'm not telling you anything new either. I'm just reminding you too. And that's what we are for each other, is reminders. And everything that was written through me just retold our story, our original story, why we're here, and all the stuff that we put on top of it to the point where we couldn't see that anymore.
So a lot of people say that we have God in us, in ourselves. So was it actually, I mean, how do you see that? Because you saw him on the outside. You're talking of something outside of you. Yet it's coming from your own projections and your heart and your soul.
The way I saw him was like in my head with the light in front of me. And it was like white on white. It was like right there, and I could see through it the person that was sitting with me. The way I looked at us about God was I felt like, if you could imagine, the only way I could describe it is that we're just raindrops of God. That nobody is left behind. That we are not alone, even when we think we are. Again, a decision we make. And that Christ comes with a lot of baggage when you say his name, but really he's only love. He's funny in really tough situations where I would stand somewhere and think I was just going to start crying because of what was going on around me, and he would say something that would lift the moment. And I realized every moment can be lifted. And when I was in that position, he just basically said to me, run, don't walk away. And I never thought I could. I thought I have to face everything. And he basically said, everything isn't yours to face. You wouldn't have time to do anything else. That people's behavior isn't specific to you. It's who they are. And if you accept their behavior, then they have an outlet for what they need to do. And if you don't, and you just move on, that person will literally find someone else to do that with. Because it's their outlet. They're going to create the situation and the drama that they need around it to play out whatever it is they need to do. And he said, when you see that or you feel uncomfortable, again, going back to trusting the love in us, the instinct in us, to run, don't walk away. And the freedom I felt when he said that, at first it sounded funny, like run, don't walk away. I thought like with sneakers. But truly, to be able to walk away from something that isn't right, and you know it, is just as powerful as knowing what you want and following it.